Okay. All right, can everybody hear us? All the folks on the Zoom, I see we've got a good number of folks joining right now. So we'll start our meeting. Welcome to the Central Park United Neighbors October Community Meeting. My name is Liz Stallniger. I'm the board president for CPUN. About Central Park United Neighbors. CPUN is the registered neighborhood organization, or RNO, for the Central Park community. We provide a working forum for the residents of Central Park to participate in creating, developing, and fostering a vibrant urban community dedicated to social equity, environmental responsibility, and economic opportunity. At our monthly meetings, we facilitate the discussion of key issues with neighbors, engage in proactive problem prevention and amicable problem solving. CPUN is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment to all members of our community. Our mission is the betterment of the city of Denver by providing a forum for the residents living in Central Park to discuss and resolve issues, a network for communication, a means of acting on matters of importance to the community as a whole. We promote public service, civic discourse, and collective efficacy. And we're an all-volunteer board of Central Park residents and a registered 501c3. We've got kind of a packed agenda tonight, and a number of speakers will be joining us. So I'll just run through this quickly. We'll start with community partner updates, and then we have guest speakers for the yes and no campaigns for the ballot measures, largely the 2A through 2E Vibrant Denver Bond, and 2G as well. And then we'll also have a guest speaker, I believe, who's going to be joining us online from the Clerk and Recorder's Office to talk about the elections in Denver more generally. We'll have a brief break and then jump into our board hour. We have the treasurer's report, committee and board report outs. Since we had a candidate forum last month, we've got a lot to catch up on, I think, as a board. And then we'll have a discussion among the board for planning upcoming events and meeting topics for 2026. And then a November and December look ahead. So without further ado, I see Jesse from the City Council District 8 office is here. I will stop sharing my screen so that folks can see the cube, such as it is, on the screen. And then I believe Lieutenant Hines let us know that he might not be able to join us because he's kind of occupied with the Police Chiefs Association meeting that's been going on. So he did send us an update. We will actually send it out in our community email on Monday. I don't see anyone from the MCA here, and we'll see if Sam Gary Library is online. And then as soon as we finish community partner updates, we'll see if we can jump into the ballot measure discussion. So I'll stop sharing my screen right now, and Jesse, you can take it away with the District 8 updates.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jesse. I am Councilwoman Lewis's senior council aide. I typically handle policy, land use, and the budget for the councilwoman. The city budget, not the office budget. Don't ask me to do that. So the main thing that the District 8 is working on right now is the city budget. We are well within the sort of budget season, which stretches from September 15th to November 10th this year. And through to this point in the budget season, we've been mostly gathering information as a council office. So the budget drops on the 15th. Council members have sort of like a week to digest the budget, and then there's a week of budget hearings with various agency heads. The city agencies come and present on the updated budget. As many of you likely know, this has been a pretty tough budget year. There's been a $200 million shortfall in the budget due to sort of sagging sales tax revenue, and then a loss of a lot of grants due to the federal and state situations, which is where we get most of our grant money from. And so we've received all of the updates from the agencies. And then on October 9th, Councilwoman Lewis attended a committee meeting. It was called a budget workshop, but it was really like a committee meeting of the whole body. And each council member was allowed to present proposals to the budget. recommending changes to the initial budget that was released on September 15th. Councilwoman Lewis submitted 13 proposals, ranging from everything from basically ensuring that the clerk and recorder of Denver had enough money to fund the midterm elections for the next year, and the Denver auditor has enough money to staff his department as he sees, or his agency as he sees fit. She submitted both of those. She submitted a couple of transportation and infrastructure related submissions, including increasing the amount of right-of-way enforcement, which should help improve bike and pedestrian safety. I know that that's a concern up here in Central Park, as well as reinstating the parking magistrates. So the city of Denver laid off all of their parking magistrates. And so if you have a parking ticket in the city of Denver, basically you have to go all the way downtown and then ask for a court date. The lines have actually been like sort of wrapping around the building because there's been so many people trying to address their parking tickets. So she submitted those. 8 of those were accepted by the rest of, or by a majority of city council. Those proposals that receive a majority vote are sent off to the mayor for inclusion in the budget. The mayor responded yesterday with his sort of list of things that he has either accepted or rejected from the letter. Among the things that he rejected were the right-of-way enforcement. He said, we are not accepting this proposal from city council. He did accept the parking magistrates, kind of. So the parking magistrates aren't coming back directly, but what's going to happen is the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is going to come up with a different administrative process that will allow everyone in Denver to just basically dispute their tickets online, much like the system has been previously. It's just going to go through the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure instead of the Denver County Court, which is the way it had been done previously. Up next is the public hearing on the budget. That's on October 27th. If you would like to make a public comment, you can.
That's.
Oh.
I just wanted to point out who we have joining us here. It's like, surprise.
Okay,
There goes our agenda.
Still going through an update with our
No
city
problem.
council
Where do
folks.
you want me to sit?
Take a seat anywhere. There's a bunch of empty seats there. Just for the folks on the Zoom meeting, Mayor Johnston has just arrived to our meeting, but Jesse, you can continue.
Yeah, so the next step in the budget process is on October 27th, there'll be a public hearing on the city budget. If you have something you'd like to share about the budget, something that was included or wasn't included in the proposed budget, again, given that it's been a tough budget year, please sign up for public comment. It can be written testimony, it can be virtual testimony, it can be in person if you want to do it that way. And just make your voice heard. You can also email the various city council offices. You can email all of them if you want to do it that way by emailing dencc@denvergov.org. And that will go to all of the council offices, again, with just sort of what you've seen from the budget, things you want funded, things you don't want funded. And then after that, city council will have a chance to amend the budget on November 3rd. And then after that November 3rd meeting, Mayor Johnston has basically a week to either accept or veto any amendments that are passed by city council. And then November 10th, the budget is voted on by city council, although it's kind of a formality because if they vote no on it, it's still adopted under the Denver City Charter. And so November 10th is sort of the sell by date, but if you want changes made, Councilwoman Lewis highly recommends you come to the October 27th meeting or you email city council and you make your requests known to city council so they can propose changes to the budget on November 3rd. That's sort of our updates. We have been in touch with Director Ford at Dottie regarding the various proposals that have been floated with Paul Sandoval campus. And we are working on that. I don't have an update on this, but I am hopeful that next month I will. And I think that's it from the council office at the moment. We have a couple of pieces of legislation that we're working on, but I'll be in a better place to talk about them in November.
I just have a question about the public hearing.
Yeah.
Is that during the 5:30 portion?
No, so the 5:30 portion is the normal general public comment. And then afterwards, what'll happen is Council President Sandoval will gavel in. And then she'll basically open up the budget for a public hearing. And unlike the general public comment, which is only 30 minutes long at 5 to 5:30, the public hearing is open to as many people as sign up. You will be able to give your testimony in person, 2 minutes for public testimony. And as many people as want to sign up, they will be heard. It's not subject to a time limit.
Any other questions in the room?
Yep.
Love to know where STAR and the crisis response team monies are. Where do you think the council is on that?
Yeah,
Be
so.
able to get a super majority?
Yeah, so STAR and the crisis response team, they were included in the letter to the mayor. It was $500,000 basically to add another team to STAR. So instead of asking for a total expansion of STAR, the request was designed in a way to basically avail themselves of the equipment that STAR already has, but do it on the time where STAR teams are not currently operating. And then I believe it was something like $236,000 for the crisis response teams in the Denver City Jail and Denver County Jail for the Sheriff's Department. Both of those received, actually, I'm not sure if both of them received supermajority. I know at least one of them did.
Don't have supermajorities currently, but I do, you keep going, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer, because we share the same goal on those two, so I'm happy to answer our perspective after as you finish.
Yeah, and neither of those were included for, neither of those were accepted by the mayor's office. And so if the mayor wants to speak a little bit about sort of the thinking behind that, that would be.
I'll just say 30 seconds, which is, on STAR, we love it. We're huge fans. We want to do more of it. The challenge right now is our nonprofit partners who implement it have not been able to deploy the capacity to use the resources we've given them. So each year they underspend about $500,000 or more each year. And so we could put more dollars into the system. They right now can't spend it with the current capacity they have. So we're trying to help them build more capacity. So we didn't currently fund that, not because we don't want to scale it, but the need is not for a new van. The need is for our current partners to be able to staff the vans that we have now. So we'll keep monitoring it. If they can push out more services, we could do supplementals to add that. But right now, that's about what they need. On the crisis response team at the Sheriff's Department, this used to be a team that would do mental health crisis response around the jail. Actually, perfect that I have Dr. Federico here. We've done two things now that are different. One is we train all of our deputies to have the same crisis response training to respond if someone is in a mental health crisis. And then we have our amazing team from Denver Health who's there on site to do in-depth support, ongoing case management, treatment, et cetera. So that team was kind of one pod that could go out to an immediate crisis. We now have folks trained for early intervention, and we have much more trained professionals on the Denver Health side that are there. So the sheriff didn't prioritize it, not because it's not a value, but because we have a better system, I think, of delivery for that now. Okay.
Speakers, and I just wanted to see if they were arriving. Okay, any other questions on the budget hearing or city council issues? Anyone?
Do you think the congresswoman will be able to come to the town hall tomorrow night on Flock?
She plans on being there. Yeah, the councilwoman, I assume.
Yes,
Me,
that's
yes.
what I said.
Oh, you meant to get.
Yeah.
He said.
What did I say?
He said.
Alex is a congresswoman.
I see her future.
Yeah. I believe she plans to be there, yes. And if not, she will certainly have multiple representatives from her team, including me there. But I believe she
There.
does
I'm
not
not
be
there
there.
tomorrow night, but Tim from my team is there as well.
And
Y'all can come.
I think that's something that during our committee report outs, we'll talk about a little bit more, but our DEI committee had I think, pretty intense and in-depth discussion about the Flock issue. And I've been in conversation with the East Colfax Neighborhood Association also about that. And they're one of the RNOs that's organizing a meeting tomorrow night about surveillance and Flock cameras. So just bookmark that. Okay, I'm looking, okay, if that's it for our city council updates, I think that actually is the only community partner updates that we have tonight. Everything else, folks, if you're not signed up for our email newsletter, all of our updates will go in that for Denver Police District 5, I think Sam Gary Library, the MCA, and Bluff Lake Nature Center, which is having a Boo on the Bluff event. And it'll be on November 1st. They wanted us to specifically mention that because since they're under construction, folks might not have been sure of that. So we'll share that information out.
That will be in the news.
And when I have a second, I will put it in the chat, how to sign up for our newsletter, and how to contact Central Park United Neighbors. So thank you. We can move into the ballot measures portion of the evening. So I am going to share my screen again, just briefly, to introduce some of our speakers. So we have, the referred questions 2A through 2E are all the general obligation bond. And so we have Evan Dreyer here, but we also now have Mayor Johnston here.
I'm the sub for Evan Pryor. Backup.
To speak to the yes side of the campaign. I think Dr. Federico, are you here to speak about the ballot?
I'm here to be the mayor's backup singer.
Okay, I was going to say about the Health and Human Services. And then we have online, I saw Jason Bailey from the Citizens for No New Debt is here. And everybody is speaking on the yes and no sides. We'll have 5 minutes to make their case. Carol Hunter next to me is the timekeeper.
So many jobs.
So yes. And then we are supposed to, for 2G, have Darrell Watson and Wynn Howell speaking respectively on the yes and no sides of that. I actually do not see either of them here, but we'll see.
Thanks, Darrell.
Join us. Okay. All right. And then, so just so that we have a little context, since we have a couple of minutes, 2A is transportation and mobility infrastructure and facilities. 2B is parks and rec center infrastructure and facilities. 2C is health and human services infrastructure and facilities. 2D, city infrastructure and facilities, and 2E is housing and shelter infrastructure and facilities. So I guess Mayor Johnston, if you'd like to speak, I will stop sharing the screen right now so that we can all.
Would 5 minutes include time for questions?
We should have a couple of minutes for questions after both parties speak.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to. 5 minutes is a luxurious amount
I
of
know
time.
you wouldn't know what 5 minutes is.
What's that?
I said, I've seen you be efficient with your time, so I know your state of.
Yeah, I was gonna do 2 minutes and leave.
I just said
Q&A,
okay.
but that was kind.
All right.
Great. So I will jump in. Thank you all so much for having me. Thanks for all your work, helping support Central Park. I think the reason we are excited about the bond are for a couple of key priorities. One is obviously, as you know, we do bond issuances every about 5 to 10 years. Most importantly, it involves no new taxes for residents. It is a way for us to catch up on capital needs the city has all around the city. And so this, I think, has more public engagement than probably any bond in history. We had 7,000 Denver residents who weighed in on this bond package. We did 50 public meetings all across the city. And we asked people, what are the things you care about in your neighborhood? What do you want to see improved, repaired, taken care of? All those about 2,000 ideas, 1,000 ideas came from them to then citizen committees who tried to help streamline and propose those. They went on to an executive committee made up of council members and of residents who then proposed a final list to us and to the council. That's what you'll see here. It's about a $950 million package, and it focuses on the core infrastructure we rely on every day. So that includes everything from roads and bridges to parks and rec centers and libraries. Some of the things you'll probably see that you've heard about, there is a library on East Colfax that's proposed in the bond with housing that would be included around that. There is the historic acquisition of the Park Hill Golf Course to be built into what will be now the city's 4th largest park. If you're everything from someone who loves going to First Friday on Santa Fe. There's the Santa Fe streetscape that will be redesigned to be safer, more pedestrian friendly, to everything from rec center, library improvements around the city. So there is about a $5 to $6 billion backlog of capital improvements around the city. So I describe a bond as sort of your Saturday honey-do list, where there's like a list of errands you try to get through throughout the week and you never have time to. On Saturday, you try to get 10 or 12 of them all done at once to catch up. This allows us to really focus on a bunch of those needs citywide as a way to make sure we don't have liabilities that grow more and more dangerous or risky over time. I'll say a couple of other things. We also think it's critically important in these moments. Some people ask, why now? Why do this now? And we think in the moment of economic uncertainty is actually the most important time for the public to invest public dollars, which are when you have people that are less likely to invest. This will create about 10,000 jobs across the city, drives about $2 billion of economic development. But also this is not the time to say, let's wait and bank on the federal government coming through with a big grant to repair bridges or roads, or let's wait for them to come to fund rec centers and libraries. We think this is actually the time to make sure Denver does control its own destiny on these things. And delivers real results. And so that's why we are focused on them. The last thing I'll add is another reason, and I've had this conversation with my friend Jason multiple times, another reason why we do a bond is that what it allows us to do is both prioritize projects to move immediately on. What it also allows us to do is accelerate the rest of the projects that are in the backlog. I'll give you an example. Right now, we have 5 bridges in the city that are all the highest risk bridges across the city. Those include a bridge at Spear and Lincoln. They include 6th and 8th Avenue bridges, and they include 2 bridges on Quebec, which are the Smith and Sandown bridges. If you right when you come under Quebec going south from I-70, you first go over that little hump. That is the Airlawn. That's the Quebec over Airlawn bridge. And then you go underneath those 2 bridges that run across. Those are the Smith and Sandown bridges. Those 2 bridges are also among the 5 least stable bridges in the city. They were not ready for the bond because we had to negotiate agreements with Union Pacific Railroad to be able to vacate the easements underneath those. But they are first in line after this bond. So when the bond package got approved, those bridges are now first in line for the capital plan for 2026 because we now just got the easement approved about a month ago. And so it's a good example where while there are projects in the bond you're excited about, what it also means is projects that were $1 billion buried on the project list are now first in the project list, which would be the stabilization of those 2 bridges on Quebec. So this is why we think it's both good investment for the city, important critical needs across the city, helps keep the economy moving, and helps make sure we don't get behind on critical maintenance infrastructure. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a question in the chat, but we'll hold off. Jason Bailey, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you have your 5 minutes now.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, thank you so much. And I had no idea that Mayor Mike Johnston would be there. I would have been there in person, and he probably didn't know I was here. Maybe he did. But so this is a friendly debate, and thank you for being here. And closest thing we're going to get.
Great to see you again.
Well, thank you. Always a pleasure. Closest thing we're going to get to a debate, I think. So thank you for putting this on. So, I would start with saying that we give way too much of the public budget to our banking system, our financial system, financial jobs, interest, fees, taxes, accounting, attorney. All of these jobs are overhead, and overhead is not what brings value to life. What brings value to life are these things we can touch, the chair we're sitting in, the table in front of us, the food we buy at the restaurant, the home where we live, the car, the phone that we have. All of this is real. And all of these jobs pertaining to finance are overhead. And the problem with bonds is it just trickles that money up. The worst form of corporate welfare is government debt. We trickle our money up to the banking system. So we actually destroy more jobs than we create. We destroy real jobs. The people earning 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 40 bucks an hour are doing real things like making the food for us. We destroy those jobs when we trickle that money up. Over the past 2 to 5 years, we have given more money to the banks, the city of Denver, enough money to the banks over the past 2 to 5 years to pay for everything on this shopping list that we have with the Vibrant Denver bonds. Everything could have already been bought and paid for with the amount of money that we've given to the banks over the past 2 to 5 years. Government debt's a bad habit. We need to break that habit. It's opium. Other people's money. It's opium. It's like heroin. You got to get off it. Bonds pay for nothing. Bonds are a tool. The taxpayer pays every single penny for your neighborhood, and every other neighborhood comes from the taxpayer. Whether you call that a tax, a fee, or a fine, it's the same thing. It's money from the people to our government, to our city in this case. To say bonds pay for things, that's like saying I went to the grocery store today and my credit card paid for my groceries. Sounds silly, doesn't it? If you say bonds pay for this park, it's the exact same logic. It sounds silly to me, but the reason it sounds normal to most people is because it's been a continual process of, well, I got to be frank, gaslighting, that these bonds pay for things. Bonds are a document and they are a tool like a credit card. And if I say the credit card paid for my groceries today, it just sounds silly. I paid for it. We pay for it. We pay for everything in this city. The banks pay for nothing. The banks need to be repaid, as everyone knows. Every single penny, plus on average, it takes twice as much taxpayer money before you have the banks paid off on average. So bonds pay for nothing. The people pay for everything. As far as the public input and thousands of ideas of what we need for the city, well, that's common sense. If you ask a 1,000 people, you're going to get 1,000 ideas of what they would like to see for the city. If you ask 10,000 people, you'll get 10,000 ideas. So that really is not much of an argument that people want things for their city. Who doesn't want things for their city? Let's take a look at business debt, and by the way, I don't have a timer, so I don't know how much time I have here.
Seconds.
Oh, pardon me.
You've got a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One minute. Let me take my last minute here and just say with business, the difference between business debt and government debt. With business debt, what you're doing, you're using that debt to take your productivity up, to take your revenue up. You're going to try to invest in equipment, facilities, and you're going to try to take that productivity and that revenue up with business debt. With government debt, the very idea that our government would be aiming to double that revenue, well, that would be very counterproductive. So we need to see our government budgets as a fixed budget. When you add debt to a fixed budget, all you do is increase that expense, maybe double your expense. You might take the sales tax up a little bit, but if you're always taking if your expense on that debt is always 10 times your additional revenue, which is generally what it is with a government debt, it's always counterproductive. And the fact that we've been doing these bond packages over and over the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years does not mean that makes sense. And if it did make sense, our city's financials would be in a lot better shape already. Government debt is a counterproductive waste of valuable money. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you.
We'll open this up for a couple of questions. There is one, actually, there's one in the chat that I'll read. Yes, you've got a question. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Thanks for coming. See, all these are really specific, obviously, as you mentioned, except for 2E is not, because it's affordable housing.
Yes.
But what is that? And it's $59 million. It's not clear looking at this, at the, literature and everything else, and what that's going to pay for.
Great question. So 2E is an opportunity for us to invest in affordable housing opportunities by purchasing land. And so the idea is it allows the city to be able to acquire land we can use to keep neighborhoods affordable. And so how it happens a lot of times is, as we see neighborhoods develop, land gets unaffordable. People can't afford to stay in those neighborhoods. And so what this would allow us to do is in places like, let's take the new Park Hill Golf Course as an example. A park is a great addition to a neighborhood. It can also help gentrify neighborhoods very quickly because people that have been there historically get pushed out when the prices go up. You think about what the home prices around Central Park are now versus what they were 20 years ago. And so this would allow us to be able to find land that we want to be able to buy and partner to develop for affordable housing in those places. We wouldn't necessarily own or operate that housing long term, but we would be an investor into land to acquire housing. So that's the purpose. There's another part of it, which is for shelter upgrades. We have some shelters across the city that are not ADA accessible. And so people can't get in and out who use wheelchairs. And so some of these are for shelter improvements to city facilities that need to have ADA accessibility. Those are the two expenditure types.
And I'll add one quick thing on the land purchases. I'm Darrell Watson, City Council member. I think the important piece when you're looking at the market impact on housing and affordability, the city can partner with developers to help build affordable housing, but that affordability changes based on the incremental impact of the market, the cost of living, inflation. The city will be able to do more land trusts, more land leases to ensure that we have locked in affordability for a long period of time instead of relying on the goodness of developers to do that.
So is the plan to only, I guess, enter into partnerships with land trusts, or would it be like more that, or I guess is the P3 public-private partnerships that have kind of been done in the past, is that also on the table for what?
To Councilman Watson's point, we're open to whatever partners want to work with us, nonprofit or for-profit, given they play by our rules. And our rules are you're going to build units that are deed restricted to be affordable and that stay affordable for 30 to 100 years. And the key is also that we have a smaller percentage investment. So in the old model, if you wanted to build an affordable housing unit, you'd say, oh, it costs $600,000 to build a unit. The city has to spend $600,000 per unit. Here, we'd like to say, actually, we only want to spend $50,000. You spend the other $550,000, but our $50,000 buys the requirement that this unit has to be deed restricted to be affordable to someone making $50,000 for the next 50 years. So we try to do actually as little amount of public money as we can for the maximum amount of affordability we can. So we're not subsidizing private investors.
Question.
What level of affordability are we talking about here? Is it staked to AMI or is it free of AMI because the city is able to sort of hold deeper affordability levels than what would be required by, other city ordinance or state law?
Yeah, the short answer is we're flexible on all ranges, and any one of these projects, when they came forward, would go through city council for approval on what this design would look like. But we think it does give us a really important chance to protect, we think, neighborhoods that will be at risk of gentrification through development that comes over the next 5 to 10 years, including Loveville area, Swansea, including 5 Points, including Park Hill and the surrounding areas. And so I think their goal is to give us flexibility to find those right deals, bring them to council for feedback and approval.
Is there a public process on developing the rules that will kind of guide, if the bond passes, kind of guiding the implementation? What sort of public process?
On this specific one, the voters' approval would be to create a fund to invest in affordable housing projects in the same way we do through our current housing department. But every individual project that came through would go through city council for review, hearing, and vote. So that would be open public hearings, open public process for each of those.
Okay. We have one question in the chat that I think is actually very pertinent to things we've been dealing with in Central Park. So we'll go to that and then we'll move on to 2G. So thank you, speakers.
Can I ask one question?
Oh,
Sorry, you're fine. You just speak real quick. This question is for Jason. So
Yes.
has there been analysis done to offer an alternative to fund all of the things included in the bond today? I mean,
Well, hey,
how do you answer that question of, well, if we don't pass it, how do we get some of these or all of these things done?
Well, hey, thank you for asking. Everybody in the room, everybody on Zoom, you are the answer. Every time you pay a sales tax at that coffee shop, every time you pay property tax, and if you rent, every time you make that rent payment, the owner of the property is using that rent check to pay property tax. So we all pay sales tax, we all pay property tax. We are the plan. There is no other plan. The plan's been in place for thousands of years. It's tax. The banks pay for nothing, not a dime, of course. You got to repay the banks. It takes twice as much money. And the difference between business debt and government debt, two different sides of the coin, completely different animals. All forms of debt need to be seen for what they are. Some make sense, some do not make sense. I like the idea of a mortgage because you're going to either buy or you're going to rent, but business debt, if it pans out and you double your revenue and you pay off that debt, that's great. But government debt's a different animal altogether. It never makes sense because government's for common good. It's mainly overhead, and with common good, you're trying to keep your costs to a minimum. With business, they're always trying to take as much as they can. That's the business model. Our government, being common good, needs to take as least amount as it can. But as far as the plan is prioritizing. There's only one way to get all things government paid for, and that's prioritizing. You watch the Denver City Council, they wanted that soccer stadium. They prioritized it and found about 70 million in about 5 minutes, metaphorically speaking, of course. So prioritizing is the only thing. You got to put the projects you want out front and use the political capital to get that done. But the plan is there. It's been there. We don't need a plan other than the plan that's there. It's sales tax, property
thank
tax, and
you.
everything else.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
We need to get to the last question. And this is a question for the mayor. It's from Matt Blackburn, who's one of our board members on the Zoom. It's just his question is, given that funds from the 2017 bonds have not been fully utilized kind of until this year. So for example, in Central Park, there's the intersection safety upgrade at Central Park Boulevard and Martin Luther King, which we've been asking for years. I know you have driven that probably thousands of times.
Single more.
So the question is, given that those funds haven't gotten fully utilized or until almost 10 years later, can the city staff effectively use the funds requested under the current bond issues if approved?
This is a really important advanced player question. Thank you for asking it. This is exactly the challenge thing with the last bond. The last bond was a 10-year bond. And when they sourced ideas from the public, they were not what we would call shovel-ready ideas. They were ideas that required, you wanted to build the rec center, but you had to first find land, you had to acquire it, you had to zone it, you had to provide infrastructure. And so we do have, I just broke ground 3 weeks ago on a fire station in Green Valley Ranch that was approved in the 2017 bond, and we're breaking ground in 2025. And so we did two things here. We shortened this bond to only be 6 years. So everything will be planned, designed, built, opened in 6 years. There will be no 10 years from now us waiting to break ground. All the 2017 bond projects will be finished on time. Their deadline is 2027. So it's a 10-year horizon. It's just that frustrating to wait 8 or 9 years before it even gets started. So what we did is fewer projects. That bond had, I don't know, it was like 500 projects. This one has 59. And those 59 projects were vetted in part by they are ready or nearly ready to break ground on in 2026. So we should be able to move them much faster. That's why they were selected.
Can I just highlight that point? So Dr. Steve Federico, I'm a pediatrician. I live here in the neighborhood. I've lived here 20 years.
Yes.
And I work at Denver Health. So hence my commitment to this bond. Recognizing, for example, our shovel-ready project on the west side of town, where we'll build a new west side clinic, expanding capacity at one of our busiest clinics by 30%, bringing new jobs to that side of the city, but more importantly, more access to care. I practice here in Montbello and have for a number of years. And one of the things I think about as a pediatrician is the difference between my kids who grew up here in Central Park and the patients I take care of in Montbello. And there are things like new clinics and parks and recreation and libraries providing access to the city uniformly. It's one of the biggest differences between my patients and my kids. And so I'd urge, the support from the MCA on this, both as a physician in the neighborhood, but also as a member. So thank you. Appreciate the time.
It's a good example of one of the items on this bond is the Montbello Library currently does not have air conditioning. So if you want to go to the library in Montbello in the summertime, it's going to be 95 degrees. Like every kid in the city should be able to go to a library that has air conditioning. Those are the kind of things that aren't sexy. They are really important to make sure quality of life is supported. And so
But they're
appreciate that example.
But they're shovel ready.
They're shovel ready now.
The clinic on West Side will put a shovel in the ground on day one.
Appreciate that. There is one question in the chat, but we kind of need to move on to the next agenda item. But Matthew Simon, I think if I can get, I guess, Evan, if I can email you Matthew's question, I'll include it in, if you can respond, I'll include it in our email newsletter. Matthew, if you can put your email in the chat as well so that I can send the response directly to you. I just want to make sure the question gets answered, but we do need to move to the next agenda item in the meeting. But thank you all for your time.
All right.
All right, so now we have two speakers on 2G. I will very briefly share my screen. Yeah, if I can find it. A second. Because I think 2G is a little confusing and I want to read the exact ballot language. So just a second. Take me a second to share. Okay. All right, and we have Darrell Watson, oh, sorry. Darrell Watson and Wynn Howell speaking. I want to address one thing actually really quickly. Just to confirm, I'm gonna call you Mr. Watson because I'm assuming you're here in your personal capacity as an individual, but you're wearing your city council
I can take.
pin. So I just
Just
want.
came from another meeting.
You know, just that this is just something I wanted to kind of clarify before we start. Referred question 2G, shall the charter of the city and county of Denver be amended to change the method for electing the two at-large council members by designating a council member at-large seat A and council member at-large seat B, and requiring that a candidate for election to either seat be elected in the same manner as the mayor, auditor, and clerk and recorder. And so once again, Carol will be our timekeeper, 5 minutes. Mr. Watson, you can start and then we'll do questions after when Howell speaks.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for having me, Darrell Watson. I think the simple piece on why referred measure 2G I think is essential is that, quite frankly, every race we have within the city and county of Denver, municipal races, are elected by majority vote. We have plurality vote for our two sitting city council members, two city council members at large, because of a decision made by a district judge in 1971. In 1968, residents of Denver voted that to move from 6 city council members to 13. They added those additional district races as well as 2 at-large seats. When they made that addition, the residents of Denver voted for partisan races for those additions. So city council, the mayor's race, the auditor's race, the at-large races would be partisan, similar to how we elect our state house and state legislature. And so you would have a Democratic primary, Republican primary, and then whoever won those races, they will run against each other. That is what was decided by the people. Supreme Court for the Colorado Supreme Court overrode that because our races are not partisan. They're nonpartisan races. When they overturned the decision of the people, they also threw out how you could vote for the at-large seats. Remember, all of the other seats were already identified. Each of those seats were elected by majority vote. That was already the process for years prior to that. 1 month before the election in 1971, a district judge says there is no way, no process for electing the at-large city council members. So plurality was decided. The question that 7 city council members that voted for this and brought this to the people as a referred measure are simply stating the initial intent for the creation of these roles was for these to be elected by majority vote. Since 1971, based on a decision by a judge, it went to plurality. That's the only how we got there. It was not a vote by the people. It was not decided by the legislative body, the city council. It was decided by a judge because time was running out and there was no other way to elect those 2 seats. What are the other large municipalities that are doing that have at-large seats doing? The majority of those large seats are electing them by majority vote as well. So Denver is an outlier with the plurality vote. There's been a suggestion that going to majority vote would have a desperate impact on people of color. Every person of color elected since 1971 has been elected by majority vote except for 2, Councilmember Ortega and Councilmember Gonzalez Gutierrez. The majority vote process has worked within Denver City Council, the most diverse city council ever elected. All of those folks, except for 1 of the folks, the Latinas elected, were elected by majority vote. There's a thought that this will cost more money. Part of the reason we did public financing for our elections And this year, we doubled down as a council member. I co-sponsored an update to the fair election funds to make sure it's more transparent.
You got his present?
And
Hey, please, mute yourself, Sabrina.
I'm so sorry.
to make sure, I apologize, to make sure that it was the public funding for our campaigns can manage forum, whether it's at large, whether it's district, whether it's any of the other citywide races. We have public financing and those will not change. We also spoke with the clerk and recorder's office on the ability to actually execute on this race. What's the level of education? What's the impact? And with our deliberations with the clerk and recorder's office, they have stated that they can, in 2027, deliver based on what we currently have, because right now we do majority vote races across the city and county of Denver. Finally, there was this discussion on dark money, that this elusive dark dollars are going to come down and rain down like manna on these races. Right now, there are independent expenditures that are putting funds into every race, including the two at-large races. Over $500,000 was spent in 2023. Unless we're going to overturn Citizens United, there will be dark funds. What we are focusing on right now is ensuring that we provide the opportunity for majority votes to occur across all races. We believe this is a smart change. That's why 7 council members supported this, put this on the ballot. That's why we have Councilmember Ortega, Councilmember Linkert, former council members at large that are strongly supporting this as well. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you. No.
Sure. So I'm Wynn. I am the treasurer of Hands Off Denver Elections, which is the committee opposing 2G, and also in my day job, the state director of the Working Families Party, which opposes this measure. So I think for the council members speak to the fact that this relates to a 1971 court decision. Obviously, there have been a lot of at-large elections since then, and they seem to have gone pretty well. So I think we all need to ask ourselves the question, why is this happening now? And as a corollary to that, who is behind it? Who is pushing for this? The reality is this makes no sense, and it's not in keeping with any good practice. It wasn't stakeholdered with good government groups or, the folks who typically work on elections, like Common Cause and League of Women Voters, in any meaningful way. In fact, the League of Women Voters also opposes 2G because in part of that lack of stakeholding and because it makes no sense. What this would functionally do is force at-large candidates to pick whether they are running for seat A or seat B arbitrarily in every election. And no other city in Colorado that I'm aware of does at-large elections that way. If you have at-large folks running in separate elections, typically those are staggered elections running in different years, which is actually what the Denver clerk proposed to council. And council rejected that suggestion from the clerk. And so we have the system where, if this passes, anybody who wants to run for at-large would just have to flip a coin, I guess, and pick whether they're running for A or B, which, how do you do that? That makes no sense. So then you have to ask yourself, why do people want to do this if you don't, if that is not in keeping with how other cities do things? And the short answer is the only thing that makes sense is to force a runoff. We can also see that in the fact that the same day that this measure was referred to the ballot, a similar split of the council, and an opposite 7-6, refused to refer ranked choice voting to the ballot in Denver, which would have avoided a runoff in these elections, but guaranteed a majority vote. And so then you have to ask yourself the question, why do folks want to force a runoff? And that's where we get to the dark money conversation. Because when we look at the 2023 elections, we see that most of the dark money that was spent came in the runoff. And because it gives that dark money 2 bites at the apple. So I'm going to tell you who's behind 2G, so you know, because they filed a campaign finance report with $40,000 raised, $25,000 of it from a man who lives in Castle Rock named Stanton Dodge, who's the CEO for DraftKings. And this dark money committee called Forward Denver gave 15K. Forward Denver was the largest funder of those 2023 dark money efforts. And in District 9 alone, spent about $300,000. So those committees that it funded did. If I'm doing my math right anyway. And so, you know, at the end of the day, the people behind it, the people funding 2G are the ones behind those the biggest dark money campaigns in Denver city history. And so if we know that, right, we can assume that they have an agenda here, right? Just like they did in 2023, spending all of that money. The other thing that you should know is that this will cost the city money. It cost, I believe that the estimate was it costs around $4 million to administer both the 2023 general and runoff. Now, that's fine if you assume $2 million for each election. It's easy to imagine a scenario in which there is not a runoff in the mayor's race, but this would force a citywide runoff for the at-large race, meaning that we're forcing $2 million to be spent. It's also easy to understand that this would mean more money out of the Fair Elections Fund and an increase in spending, and that actually is one of Councilmember Kniech's
30 seconds.
Biggest critiques of this, who opposes this as a former at-large measure. And I'll just close by sharing some of the other organizations that are opposed to this. Conservation Colorado, multiple unions, AFSCME, CWA, Denver Teachers Union, Working Families Party, and multiple state legislators, including Senate President Coleman, Senator Rodriguez, Representative Sirota. So list goes on, but happy to take questions. And ultimately, this just makes no sense.
Thank you. Questions, and I also just want to acknowledge, should I say Miss Lewis or Council?
Miss Lewis,
Okay,
I'm here in
I'm in your private capacity.
Exactly.
So, okay. So, all right, I guess, do we have any questions? I don't see any questions on this, the Zoom chat, so.
Everybody's got a question.
Yes.
So why isn't the mayor's race? Why did you feel the mayor's race should be majority then?
I never said that.
But the same argument applies.
Sure. So what I will say is that Denver's runoff system is the outlier. None of our other elections require a majority. School board doesn't, Congress doesn't, state ledge doesn't. None of our other elections do. Only Denver has this weird runoff system. And in fact, in Congressional District 8, one of the hottest congressional districts in the country, we have yet to elect a Congress member with more than 50% of the vote. It's whoever gets the most votes wins. Why is that a bad system?
If there aren't any questions, there is a long list of stuff that was said that maybe if there's an opportunity for folks to have questions, I could quickly respond in 2 minutes to some of the stuff that was stated.
I
Yes.
guess, I think that what we can do, if it goes both ways, we
Yes.
do have another speaker from the clerk and recorder's office.
And I'll go
I'd say
really quick.
I'm going to give 2 minutes to each of you to kind of continue responding. So 2 minutes.
So very quickly, I was the primary co-sponsor for ranked choice voting. And the folks that voted against ranked choice voting were different council members and voted for or against the at-large bill. And I am a strong supporter for ranked choice voting as well. Reason why I supported ranked choice voting and why I believe is important is I believe that the splitting of the seats provides an easier opportunity and a consistent auditing process for all, from ranked choice voting as well as for at large. As far as dark money being within the elections, every race, including our District 9 race on both sides, received funds from independent expenditures. Our large seats, as I stated, received over $500,000 in those funds. As far as the description of having split year elections, every council member has the opportunity to put that forward. What we proposed, I proposed 2 bills, ranked choice voting, and I proposed this. It's an 8-month process. It's communication and it's work. Every council member, if they decide that they would like to do a split election, Any group of council members can choose to bring that forward, but we chose to focus on this. This bill was written by Doug Linkhart 25 years ago as an at-large city council member and was supported by Councilmember Ortega with the same idea 12 years ago. This has been a discussion going on with city council for over 20 years. This is not something that's new. It's nothing, it was prior to IEs being part of the process. And so this has been a consistent dialogue within council. We were the first group of folks to get 7 votes. It's not easy to get a referred measure of council members on the ballot.
Sure. So I hear a lot of false equivalencies about dark money. When I speak about dark money, I'm not talking about union committees. I'm talking about corporate dark money. Forward Denver, this funder of 2G, specifically exists as a 501c4 organization that doesn't advocate, doesn't have a website, doesn't do anything except take money from sources, hide those sources, and redistribute them to independent expenditure campaigns. That is what they do. I'm also going to tell you that another thing that they have given major contributions to is One Main Street. You may have seen on the front page of the Denver Post this Saturday for the corruption scandal that they are admired in, and they are a state level dark money committee that recently paid for junkets to Vail to multiple of our state legislators that are now embroiled in an ethics controversy over it, because guess what? You're not supposed to have corporate lobbyists giving gifts to our state legislators. That's actually banned by law, but that's the kind of stuff that Forward Denver supports. And so in D9, $300,000 spent, and $500,000 spent, $300,000 spent supporting, $196,000 spent against, versus on the other side, the union and community side, $84,000 spent in support, $22,000 spent against. And so we're looking at a ratio of 5-to-1 of corporate money versus community money there. And I would argue that the folks behind this ballot measure really like that ratio.
Thank you. I guess, can we give 30 seconds to Ms. Lewis there, and then we will move to the clerk and recorder's office.
Because I am, it's very interesting to hear the arguments, but this is one of the things that I have noticed on council that has actually been quite divisive. And when we talk about the juxtaposition with the ranked choice voting or this, they're actually in conflict. And so I think that's important. That's an important note. I do have a question for Councilman Watson, because I heard that you mentioned that only one of the current city council members was elected by a majority, and I was curious as to who that council member is.
No, the statement I made is over the history since 1971, there were 2 council members that were not elected by a majority vote. Because there were 2 at-large council members, Latinas, that weren't elected by a majority vote. Those were Councilwoman Gonzalez-Gutierrez and Councilmember Debbie Ortega. And I stated Debbie Ortega because she's a strong supporter of this. So it is based on the structure of how at-large is set up, why there is not a majority vote, and those were the 2.
That's really helpful for me to understand. And I guess the second question I have is, why now? Because you mentioned that a previous council member had this legislation in their back pocket for a decade. And while they were in the seat, they didn't pursue this legislation. And so I'm just curious as to why now this pursuit.
I have an absolute clear answer. First, I'll start with Doug Linkhart. Why he didn't propose it is because there was a clear question that if he put that forward, there will be a second competing proposal to remove the at-large seat. So he said, I got other important things I want to focus on, so let me focus on that. Councilwoman Ortega considered proposing it, but there was another at-large seat change process that went forward before council. That was extremely divisive and only had 2 votes that they passed. She chose not to bring that forward again because of what went through the last referred measure that only had 2 city council votes for at large. So both those had competing proposals. Both council members identified based on their priorities. Is this something I want to get into to lead on? They both have supported. They both have worked with us to make sure that the language was consistent. And we brought it forward because we had 5 city council members, unlike any of the other ones that have come forward before, that said they will sponsor it, and we only need 2 more votes.
Need to move to the
That was our
next.
one.
Yes, but I will say that 5 city council members, 7 to move anything forward, 9 to be vetoed by the mayor, and it was a very divisive vote and a split on city council. I'll just say that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think that we'll have our community email going out. I'm going to be reaching out to everybody who spoke to provide some information for us to share out, because I know not everybody's going to watch the archive video. So, okay, all right. And with that, so thank you all. Thank you all for your time. This is very spirited discussion. We'll move to Sabrina. Allie is here from the Clerk and Recorder's office to speak generally. We'll figure out what we're going to shift in the board hour for, whatever we've got on the agenda for the board hour. I think is more important as we have the upcoming election to kind of talk about these things. So we'll figure it out. But Sabrina, take it away.
Sounds good. And apologies again for my interruption earlier. I'm so sorry. My daughter was running out of the house. I just wanted to check in with you. How long do you want me to try and condense down to?
Yeah, no more than 10 minutes.
Got it. Okay. So I'm Sabrina Allie. I am the Deputy Clerk and Recorder for the Denver Clerk and Recorder's office. Do you all have our presentation, or is there a way for Gustavo to share our screen? He tried to ask in the chat and didn't get an answer.
I think Gustavo, I think you should be able to just share it, or I can give you permission.
I think he might need permission. But I'll go ahead and get started so that we're not waiting on that, because we'll catch you up. So yes, the Clerk and Recorder is elected in Denver, and our elected Clerk and Recorder right now is Paul Lopez, former city councilman. And he is not able to be here tonight because there were about 5 R&O meetings tonight that we needed to be at all at once. And so we're splitting up. He apologizes for not being here himself. But the Denver Clerk and Recorder, we are going to talk mostly about the coordinated election coming up. But I did want to just make sure that everybody knows we don't just do elections in the Clerk and Recorder's office. We also have our recording team, which does important things like recording all of our property, deeds, liens, all that kind of good stuff. They also issue marriage and civil union licenses. We have the Public Trustees Office, which oversees the foreclosure processes in the city. We have the City Clerk's Office that keeps track of all of the city's ordinances and all of our records. We oversee 10 million historic records for the city. So all of those things are things that fall under our office in addition to the elections that we run. We're here mostly tonight to talk about elections. And so I'm just going to give you a quick recap of our elections in 2024. Gustavo, I can see the screen. So if you can just scroll us forward on those slides a couple. So just really quickly wanted to give you some of the trends that we saw in the elections in 2024. We processed over 608,000 ballots in the 4 elections that we ran last year. The November general election, we had over 369,000 ballots cast. Unfortunately, that is a turnout that is lower than the previous presidential election. We actually had 23% of registered Denver voters who did not vote in the 24 general election. And so we really want to encourage all of you. We know that the most important influencing factor in whether or not people cast their ballots is whether they're talking to friends, family, and colleagues about it. So get out there and talk about it. Really appreciate you giving us the time tonight and discussing a lot of these issues. When people feel informed, they are more likely to turn in their ballot. So have a ballot party at home and sit out with your friends and neighbors and figure out, how to answer their questions, because that's what gets people to vote. As is typical, our young voters had the lowest turnout. Those ages 18 to 25, 43% of them didn't cast a ballot. That's better than it's been in the past, but it's still pretty bad. So we really want to get those 18 to 25 to turn in their ballots. And 28% of our unaffiliated voters in Denver didn't cast their ballot in this past presidential election either. One thing we do want to note is that there are 60% of our voters return their ballots via our drop boxes. So there seems to be some confusion out there a little bit about maybe most people return their ballots by mail. While we do mail everyone the ballots to you, it's only about 8% of voters that mail their ballot back to us, actually. And we really encourage you to go ahead and use those ballot drop boxes. They're checked every day, sometimes multiple times a day. 23% of our voters do use our voter service and polling centers and our mobile voting units. And the reason for that is a lot of people just like to vote in person. It's like part of the civic duty part of it. But I think the other big reason that people use those in-person voting centers is because they need to replace a ballot. They have questions. They have access issues that we need to work through with them. And so they're really important places for people to be able to go to and get in-person help if needed. One last note is that only 43% of our ballots get cast on the last 2 days of the election. And that just means that it takes us longer to process those. We don't have all of the vote in by the time people are going to bed on election night. And we really want to be able to, have enough of the ballots cast that all of those races can be called before the end of the evening. So really want to encourage everybody to go ahead and turn your ballots in early. And we'll go to the next slide. That's because we are super fortunate in Colorado. We get our ballots mailed to us 22 days before the election. And so we have longer than most people in the rest of the country get to really think through all of these issues, make educated decisions, and get those back well before election day. Ballots were mailed for this coordinated election on October 10th. So if you have not received your ballot by now, you need to contact us so that we can get you a replacement ballot. And so do that as soon as you can, and we'll see if we can get it in the mail to you in time. Otherwise, they'll have you come to a polling center to get a replacement. All of our 24-hour drop boxes are now open, and we opened on Monday the web building voter service and polling center. So that is available already. Our additional polling centers open in 2 phases between October 27th and November 3rd. You can find the locations of all of those and the ballot boxes on our website at denvervotes.org. Find the one that's closest to you or wherever is convenient. If you're going to mail your ballot back, please do so by October 27th. We in Colorado are not allowed to accept a postmark of election day as close enough, It actually has to arrive in our offices by 7 p.m. on election day for us to count it. So if you're going to mail it back, don't do it after October 27th. Use one of those drop boxes or a polling center instead. And then just the last date is Tuesday, November 4th. That is the actual election day. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You must be in line at a polling center before 7 p.m. in order to get your ballot through. And we do close all of our drop boxes promptly at 7 p.m. I have sadly seen people run into the box and not get there in time, and we are required by law to shut them at 7 p.m. So make sure you're there in advance of that. Here's what to expect on the ballot this time around. Oops, sorry. There we go. You will have Denver Public Schools Board of Education. They have the Director at Large. Districts 2, 3, and 4 are on the ballot. And then Colorado state ballot questions are Proposition LL and Proposition MM, which are the Healthy School Meals for All. The city and counties Denver ballot questions are the Vibrant Denver Bond. There are 5 questions. They're single subjects, so they are broken out into different types of bonds. So there are 5 of them. There's a question about whether or not to rename the Department of Excise and License. There's the question you heard spoken about earlier tonight about the at-large council elections. And then there's a question about the sale of flavored tobacco products. Council had passed a ban on those products, and there's been it's been referred to the ballot to decide whether to repeal that ban. And somebody in the chat asked a very good question about, I believe it was Matt Blackburn, why are some of these things not in the ballot issue notice? So here's how this works. The state puts out the blue book, which has the blue cover that is mailed to you for all of the Colorado state ballot questions. They produce that. They have months to do it. They have staff to do it. They do the pros and cons, and it gets mailed to you. Under state law, any local elections that have any tax implication have to go in the ballot issue notice, which is labeled here as Tabor notice. We actually mail that to you. We're required by law to mail anything that has tax implications on a local election to each of you in the ballot issue notice. All of the other items that are city and county of Denver ballot questions are not required to be mailed. And due to the budget issues this year, we determined that we would have to not mail those and print them all. And so those appear in the ballot information book, which is only available online at denvervotes.org. Those are there and they're available. All of them are posted on our website, but that's why they're in different publications. I too would really prefer they were all in one and it was easy to get. But unfortunately, that's kind of the way the state law has it set up. So I hope that answers your question. The other thing we want to go over is just where your ballot box and VSPC locations are. I will not read all of these to you since we are short on time. I think the most important things for you to know.
30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to really quickly talk to you about the budget impacts. Probably many of you have heard that we are in the fight of our lives, frankly, to defend Denver's democracy. The mayor has underfunded our budget significantly for next year. We have twice as many elections next year. We cannot do it on the budget that's been proposed. That is going to cause closures. And we have a map that's available, if you want to scroll to that, Gustavo, that will show where all those closures next year would be during the primary election next year. This is significant. It is going from 17 to just 5 polling center locations, and it's dropping 8 drop boxes. So we are asking people. Yeah, I'll wrap up. I just wanted to say we are asking folks to please contact city council and let them know if you use these services and would like to see them to support a budget amendment. They need to hear from you by next week. And we are really hopeful that we can come to a place where we are not forced to make all of these closures during a time when democracy is so important and next year's elections will have national implications. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
We've got one, Kristen.
Hi, thank you for that information. Super, super interesting, very important. Is there publicly available information on the number of ballots or percentage of ballots across all that was received by voter box or whatever you call it, the drop-off boxes? Like we have one here apparently, but like, yep. How many do we get here? I have no idea.
Oh, so we do that in aggregate on our dashboard on our website, but we can get you that information. It will depend on the election, right? So some elections have higher turnout than others, but yeah, if you want to contact our office, I can definitely tell you what, we can give that to you in percentage or number of ballots or whatever information you want, but we do keep that information.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. And I can put my email in the chat if you want to just email me directly.
Okay, great. And we will be doing kind of a wrap up of in our community email that goes out on Monday. So if there's information you'd like us to share out from the clerk's office, like just email it to me, Sabrina, and we'll include it.
Great. We will absolutely do that. I super appreciate you allowing us to take the time tonight. I know you had a lot on your agenda.
That's all right. Thank you. This has been a really interesting conversation. Okay. So now for the rest of the meeting. So just so that folks know, that concludes our community hour. It was a little longer than an hour. And we're going to I think we need to take about a 5-minute break to recalibrate for our board items. Everybody is welcome to stay. It is going to be kind of Central Park United Neighbors board discussion topics. but it is a public meeting, so feel free to stay. We'll be kind of talking about some of the work that our committees are doing, as well as planning for events and outreach in 2026. So, okay, I'm going to mute, I'm gonna mute the cube, and then in, let's see, at 7:50, we'll unmute again and start the board portion of the meeting. So thank you all for joining. Real quick.
Yes, yeah.
All right, and we are back in the cube. Thank you for the folks who've stayed on for the board portion. I think we'll just run through the treasurer's report. Brian is traveling, so he just, updated a slide. Not much has changed. But basically, we have our current reserve balance is $12,130. And I'm not sure exactly which piece of change is in that. It looks like there's a typo. But the goal is to keep 5,000 in reserve, so we're doing very well on that. But that I just, once again, want to reiterate, we do have budget available for community events, and I would like us to be kind of thinking in that direction for 2026. So the spending summary right now, just our only expenses are the website, 196. And then our insurance actually went down. I know Brian worked some magic and he negotiated down. So it's 392. So we're getting a refund of $932. I guess he went with a different insurer, got a better rate. So, all right. Committee report outs. Do you want to start?
Sure, sure. I'm not going to expand on, since we're running short of time. One thing I do want to say is I want to step back to the candidates forum, and I found out that, I don't know, I think Kristen, you thought 60. I mean, people were doing different counts of people who were present in this room. But we had 105 people on Zoom.
Oh, wonderful. I was waiting to hear that. I was like, that's fabulous.
Really pleased to hear that.
That's really good.
Yeah.
The YouTube views. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's a good question. You'll have to wait until I'm not sharing my screen.
Anyway, I'll go ahead and, what I'm thinking about doing, for lack of a better term, is sort of rebooting Education Committee. I want to talk to the people who are regular attendees on the committee as to what our focus might be and going forward, and I'll just leave it at that. I also think it's really important for the Education Committee to be collaborating with our other committees as well. It just makes sense to me. Can I just go ahead and talk about Safe Streets? Because
Go ahead.
we'll talk about Safe Streets. Amy Campbell is the co-chair with me for Safe Streets, and she and I are also rethinking about purpose and focus. To that end, I had a conversation with Lieutenant Hines about the reality of Safe Streets and about what DPD is responsible for and what they can actually get done when we talk about traffic safety and egregious drivers and all of the things that we're concerned about. So I had a great conversation with him, and I can share that information in the newsletter. And then I have also an appointment or a conversation coming up with Councilwoman Lewis about that too, about the realities of Safe Streets and about traffic safety and about we're having difficulty with communicating with Dottie. They have stopped communicating with us. So
Since the August meeting,
we had a quarterly meeting set
Yeah.
up before, and
is Maggie still with
I don't know. But we repeatedly, and Amy's very good about that, contact, and we have heard nothing. So I'm going to talk with Councilwoman Lewis, and sorry, I didn't mean to front my back to you. That was something that Lieutenant Hines suggested as well. So I'll let you know. All right. Okay.
Is there any sort of support that you would want from the board or community members?
We'll let you
to
know.
help? Okay.
We'll let you know.
I think something like some of the follow-up from, I guess the follow-up from the meeting we had in August was that Fiona, I think is her name, is the staffer, the intern.
Oh,
in
yes,
District
yes.
Justice, who was inputting all of the 311 cases.
Right.
And I guess getting an update on that would be helpful.
Well, and
I think that the data entry portion of it is done. I think the follow-up on seeing how do we track follow-up on the department's side is the next step.
100 views of the.
Yes. Well, it's funny though, because
You know that? I'm sorry.
yeah, I did, but thank you. No, but weirdly, that's actually lower than most of the reviews on a regular meeting.
Maybe
Someone-
because so many people came.
Yeah, so anyway, it was very good, but we will share out the forum video and also this video with the chapters for each piece of the ballot
Also,
discussion.
600 views on the story I wrote.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks, Bruce.
So.
Yeah.
So yeah, Anyway, elections matter. So is that, okay. Safe Streets. Diversity, equity and inclusion. Matt, I think you were on the call for the meeting. Heather, were you on that? Kathy?
Shalice?
Yeah, Shalice, but I don't know if Shalice is still on. So, oh, sorry, guys. So I think that, we can just talk about the main topic of our meeting at the end of September was the issue of flock cameras. Are folks familiar with what those are? They've been in the news recently. And so I think that the main issue right now is that the mayor has been able to kind of extend the contract that the city had after city council voted down the contract. He extended the contract by limiting it to $499,000. And there are pretty serious civil rights concerns around that, that. And currently right now it is, there, I think, are not regulations or legislation in the city charter sorry, not the city charter, but in the city code around that. And so there is a town hall, but essentially, and folks who are on the conversation can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was actually a fairly pretty wide set of, I think each of us had different perspectives on it. I think I was on the extreme civil libertarian side, and then the concerns around public safety and figuring out how to balance those perspectives. So ultimately, the conclusion in the DEI meeting was that we're, I think that like there is a pretty wide diversity of opinions. There are other RNOs in the city who have been working on this issue specifically because there were applications to install flock cameras in the intersections in their neighborhoods. So Whittier, East Colfax, I forget, I think there might have been some West Denver ones as well. And so they've organized a town hall that they invited the mayor to, and he's not going to. But it's tomorrow night, so it's October 22nd. It is, I will send out I think actually, if somebody can look up, it was in our last community email, I think, and share it in the chat in the Zoom, or I can. But it's tomorrow night, so it's just a community discussion on the issue. And it does, if it does actually, it does have to come up to city council eventually, because it will eventually be more than $500,000. And so I think that largely right now, neighborhoods that have had to confront the placement of these cameras in their neighborhoods want to start a conversation with other neighborhood organizations. So I know David Kutler on our board will be there tomorrow night, but I would encourage, and Kathy, I would encourage anybody who is interested in learning more about it to go. I have to see, Heather, I see you're looking. Is there an online opportunity or is it only in person?
I saw, I didn't see it online,
Okay.
and there's not a registration.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lisa. So it's 6 o'clock at 2650 East 40th Ave. So I will not be able to attend, but if anybody from CPUN or from Central Park is interested in the issue, I would like, to get some. What do you mean?
Of the flock cameras, or has it been?
Are they all opposed?
These are all folks who are opposed to
It
it.
is, okay.
So it's being organized by folks who, and I think that East Colfax had sorry, this is becoming a much longer report out, but it was like a pretty intense, like discussion that we had. But essentially, I think in terms of like neighborhoods closest to us, East Colfax is engaged most actively in it because of the placement of the cameras in their neighborhood. And so I think their August meeting was actually essentially a debate between Councilmember Parity and a DPD representative on it. And then they actually took a vote on who was supportive or not supportive of it among the RNO and community members who were there, and the no, like the opposition vote prevailed. So
How many in our neighborhood?
There's a.
there's a map
There's a map.
somewhere.
Come up
We
and tell us.
do, yeah,
Like, conversation.
we do, but
It did, like, but it was like, it was like 3 weeks ago, Kristen.
Oh, I
So,
feel like
a lot has happened since then.
There's a lot of fascism between now and then, so, like, from that discussion, so,
the key
So there are.
concerns are,
There are some.
yes, there are. and there are.
Yeah.
yeah.
Our data has been used or could be used and is still accessible for people who are not Denver folks.
Mhm.
And so federal agencies, other states could use the data, whether it's around immigration, whether it's around reproductive health. And there's more to it, but those are the ones that.
But also, I
Human
think,
trafficking.
yeah, there's also, well, I think that there's also, it's not just, just a license plate reading, like they
Yeah.
collect kind of appearance, like basically unique individual visual markers of a vehicle, which then, anyway, there's actually a really interesting discussion of this in the Denver subreddit that I can send you guys, but it's like actually very specifically talking about how it's not just images, but it's like vector enabled data that then like, which is actually like,
Yeah.
which is actually kind of can be more invasive and more specific than just an individual image. So, yeah, so yeah, that it's like also like an AI enabled tool. So all that is to say is it was a very hot discussion. And I will share out the information. Lisa Escarsica has shared it in the chat. So I just encourage folks to learn more about the issue and talk to other neighbors who are working on it. Okay. So,
You know,
all right.
technology's getting.
Okay, so we did Safe Streets, Health and Safety, David's not here, so we can skip that. Sustainability, also, I don't know if you have. And
He
he's,
hasn't gone away, but it's.
that's okay. It's a lot, there's a lot like to keep up with these days, so don't worry about it. But if folks are interested in like organizing around sustainability topics, talk to Heather. Comms and outreach, David had a conflicting meeting, so he couldn't join tonight. But he wanted to let folks know that he sent out the Google form for folks who are interested in comms and outreach. The first Wednesday of the month from 6 to 7 p.m. Is the day and time that went out. So we'll send out, I think that just for all of these committees, we should just have calendar invitations for everybody for them. So I'll start sending those out and folks can accept or decline as they're available, or interested.
Survey falls under comms and outreach, right?
Yes, but we're not doing the survey. I think we talked about with Amanda, moving it to like not, since we just did it, basically being on like an 18 to 24 month schedule for it instead of like a 12-month schedule. Since it takes like 6 months to do the survey and then like look at the data.
No,
So,
that's good. Gives us time to sort of plan.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
So yeah, and to have some breathing room. The other kind of sub piece of comms and outreach actually, and this kind of moves us into the next topic. Oh, actually, no, it doesn't. Let's skip these, like, we'll skip the board report outs for now. But talking about what we want to work on in 2026, the kind of sub piece of comms and outreach is fundraising, and that has been our mini golf event. in conversation with the Central Park Business Association that we've partnered with, we agreed that May is actually a really awful time. I mean, it's a really awful time to be organizing a major fundraiser for both of our groups, especially for folks who like have kids in school. And so we agreed that September, like moving that event to September is probably a little bit more humane. And it also just gives us a little more time to work out, you know, different kinks in like the planning for it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially, yeah, I think that in this year's event, we were all watching, like watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Insane thunderstorm like a few miles away. And we just made it under the wire, but I think September is much better weather-wise. So that gives us some breathing room. And I just wanted to open up the conversation to folks in the room. I had asked if board members could come with one or two ideas, just examples of what we've done in the past. So for Safe Streets, and these can come through committees. A lot of planning happens in committees, but also it can just happen among like a subset of board members. So it doesn't, it's not entirely rigid in like where events need to be planned. But the community bike rides that Safe Streets has done is good. I think that we also were approached by Rocky Mountain Arsenal, I think, to do a bike, I think like a bike
Oh,
ride up there.
conflicted with.
And it conflicted
yeah.
with the Century Ride this year, but I think that that would be actually a really good, just kind of
Yep.
good safe streets and sustainability, kind of coordinated event. So that we've already been approached about that. So if folks are interested in organizing something like that, so these would be, yeah. And I know you're a cyclist, right?
I was at the Century, yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh.
so.
I only did the 50 this year because it was my husband's birthday and he's like, I don't want to be wrecked for my birthday.
Oh,
Next year though, I'm impressive.
So, yeah. So I think that, I mean, basically, yeah, if folks want to do like just a subgroup and I can share the name of the person who reached out, actually the person who reached out is actually Councilman Watson's husband, was working on the project. So, but anyway,
Trying to set up something organized like the Denver Century, right?
no, it was actually the Rocky Mountain, it was like the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, I think, as part of their community outreach, asked if our neighborhood organization wanted to organize a ride. And we did, but the date that they had suggested was the 27th of September, which was the Century Ride. So we couldn't do it this year.
Which is really weird for them to not know.
I think it was Arsenal Day. Is that?
Yeah, it's Arsenal.
Century Ride. And we're like, that's.
Yeah, so we'll have to like
Maybe it'll
work
this
that.
year.
Work that out, but I think that that is fairly low hanging fruit. I think that also like, speaking for the DEI committee, we did the Marade and History Colorado meetups last year. In addition to the Art of the Powwow was also a really well attended event. It was a bit of a heavier lift in terms of organizing and budgeting, but I think that those are, you know, good events. The Marade meetup, if you don't mind walking like in like.
I'm so cold.
When it's like 0 degrees out, I will supply the hand warmers, but it is like,
2 miles to get service
yeah,
and an Uber. I don't know if I told you that, but like I went from coffee shop to coffee shop, just trying to warm up. Cause I could not, Uber was not working.
oh,
Cause it was there were so many. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
But you can think of it as kind of like a polar plunge to start. It's like Denver Ocean.
I mean, it was great.
To start off the year.
It was a great.
But yeah, and it's always right before the first meeting, this first CPUN meeting of the year. So I think that is a fairly simple thing to organize. And again, the History Colorado meetup we did was specifically to look at the Sand Creek Massacre exhibit that they've done, which and then, you know, we kind of debriefed afterwards, like everybody kind of went through at their own pace and then we talked afterwards. So these are just like really simple And so I would just encourage folks to think like, what are simple ways of connecting each other? Obviously candidate forums and apparently like ballot measure discussions.
Say, Liz, it didn't occur to me until now, like, yeah, if we could do something like that for the ballot measures, everybody I know is like, oh my God, I gotta go do my research and I don't know where to go, and should I go online, or is there a booklet, whatever, I'm like, oh, yeah, we could just.
Yeah, so I think yeah, we have like I think that's the midterms next year, so it's the governor's.
Provide food and drink
Yes,
and you will
like-
have people.
Yeah.
You should make it a social occasion.
Yeah, so there's a lot of elections.
That'll be statewide, a lot of statewide ballots.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I think so.
so.
Now,
So I think that like whenever we know what is going to be on the ballot, I think we should definitely, we're also we're a very high turnout neighborhood, so I think having higher information, like engagement around ballot issues is really important. What I would actually my dream, well, I have two dreams. I used to host beer and ballot parties.
and I've been.
And yes, and
Is
Yeah,
that legal?
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I mean, and so we would have, basically what it was like tonight, we would have speakers like,
That's how Trump.
for each, no. We would have speakers for kind of either each candidate or yes, no sides of a ballot. People would provide like pizza, people would bring their beer, and yeah, Carol came to the last one we had in 2020, right before everything shut down.
Yeah.
And it's lucky it was not a super spreader event, but it would be very nice to do something like that, as a community organization. But the other thing actually that is my dream is to have somebody speak about the judge retention part of the ballots. Like, and how to make decision-making around that, because I feel like that is the most, the least understood and kind of most skipped part of the ballot. So kind of getting some education and engagement around there. I see like, Matt and Tommy, who else is online? If you guys want to unmute and also share your thoughts, you're welcome to. Or anybody else who has ideas. I think the joint RNO meeting, we're working on that right now. I just had a meeting today with the other RNO leaders. So I'll be sending some information about that. But basically, we're asking the District 8 office to get the new head of community planning and development, the new Department of Safety head, since there are new folks since last year, the head of, if she's available, or the highest level person we can get, from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, so you can speak directly. But the idea of the joint RNO meeting is just to have a regional kind of gathering of neighborhoods, having direct conversations with largely agency heads that we otherwise don't have access to.
One thought I had after the school board forum was to involve the other RNOs that are in that respective
Yeah.
phase. Cause I'm pretty sure that the other ones in District 4 didn't host their own forum. So I don't know, that could be like another opportunity
Yeah.
for collaborating.
I've invited, yeah,
Yeah,
The outreach.
more attendees.
communication,
More
that's a great
attendees.
idea.
yeah. I think that, so it sounds like we will be hosting a lot of forums next year. Sounds.
I don't know if we're big enough to do a governor's candidate forum, but if we did it with a bunch of RNOs and had a space, that might get more people there. I know Together Colorado, November 16th is doing a big people's conference and they're having a governor's candidate. So I think Bennett is coming as well. So
That information, because I think that I did not know about that event. And we should put, like, that's the sort of thing we can put in the newsletter.
sure,
Sorry that I'm always like, that's content for the newsletter.
that's good. First contribution.
I did the INC training, I think, recently, which I thought was really useful. It was all online, which I thought was gonna be terrible, but it was actually good because you can kind of walk around, whatever. But a couple things I took from it are ideas. where that like we can make name tags. I mean, most of our attendees, I think, are online. It's generally just us, but like for people that do come, like your name and what year you moved to the neighborhood and sub-neighborhood and their interests, I don't know, just makes it a little more inviting for our people that
Yeah.
first time attendees. And then idea of like a neighborhood bingo or like scavenger hunt.
I have wanted to do that.
I thought, okay, I feel like, and it could be like a live event where people come together to do it, or it could be sort of asynchronous where we like build something and then like complete it, and then we have like small
Take a
prizes.
photo.
Yeah, something like that. That could be fun. I think
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
And then the businesses could get some.
that's what I think the Central Park artists folks, I mean, this was a conversation we had at the mini golf event while we were all volunteering. And I think that the Central Park artists folks were also very interested in like, especially if, you know, if they were interested in being involved also.
And like another volunteer type event of like, we pick a school campus in the neighborhood and go pick up trash, or we serve a meal, you know, like mutual aid Monday meal, or I don't know, just something else to be together, invite people to do something.
I think that, so I am taking notes on all of these. Okay, anybody else? Ideas? Chris, Carol?
No, I'm good. I'm just thinking about what's already up there and then tweaking whatever, you know, like the idea of the Harvest Fest. I think anything where we can collaborate with people, make them feel welcome, make them feel that they have another community, that's what we need to do.
Build on the farmer's market in the summer, so it's not as heavy a lift. I don't know if there's some way.
Farmers Market is an MCA program. So do you, I guess like, do you mean like having some sort of like CPUN adjacent like table?
Which I think we did a
events?
few
Yeah.
years ago. I think there was a table.
Yeah, I think I have asked about that before, and I think we need the volunteers to.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Run the table.
Oh, absolutely.
The farmer's market. Yeah.
That's something, so I don't know, I haven't thought about this, but the idea there's a whole open space, we could organize kid activities or a little Olympics thing. So people, you know, they can eat food out there.
Scavenger hunt.
For the scavengers on those days. It's something where people are already coming, so we're not having to get people out again. Just a thought.
No, that's a great point.
Concerts get hundreds of people.
Well, and speaking of kids, I thought we could, maybe if you come to a meeting, you would feel comfortable bringing your kid, but like making it more upfront that it's like family friendly,
Yeah.
like on the invites, like it's okay to bring your kids.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, something that I have always thought about our meeting time is that it's right in the middle of the dinner, like what is typically the dinner.
And bedtime.
families. And bedtime, yeah, and bedtime for like families with younger kids, so.
But we can't go earlier. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's tough, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I think I mean, if we want to expend like some budget just to always have some sort of food, like.
I think that's a very good idea, food
Yeah.
and drink. And the other thing I wanted to go back to was, when can we start a calendar? There's an exchange of good ideas here. And so we need to do a calendar starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exaggerating a little bit, but you've got some good stuff, and let's just get it down and start planning.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, well, I think that, okay,
With their.
yeah,
Committees for
board
you.
meeting with the MCA. All right, I will be honest, I have limited capacity. So I feel like we need like a point person, if somebody wants to follow up with the MCA and ask like, what do we need to do to have either a table or be involved in the events? Cause they are planning the programming for 2026. And I mean, I think like reaching out to, if basically somebody who is in this room please say, I will contact Diane Dieter and say, I'm the point person for CPUN to see how we can, be involved. So it looks like Kathy,
So Diane, who?
Diane Dieter, she's the lady who gives the MCA updates. She, yeah.
She has
Nothing
fun.
about
So, yeah, so, I'll send you her email address. And feel free to follow up.
Can I just ask
Sure.
a question here, just as being fairly new, but like, when I was thinking about ideas, and I don't know if this would be over the purview of our organization, so shoot these down, but like, I hear in other neighborhoods how like when school starts, they have like bike buses or bike trains,
Yeah.
like going through the neighborhood, picking up kids, like the very first day to school. Is that something that like we would organize, or how does?
The schools typically organize that, like, at least I know that
Yeah.
Westerly Creek has, like, they have their first day of school traditions.
Yeah.
Which is like meet up at like Aviator Pool and everybody walks on the greenway together. So it's adorable.
Yeah.
I
Like,
could check with
so,
Amy
yeah.
because she's a parent. Her child is at Isabella Bird. She's a cyclist.
Yeah.
And she may have some information.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that might be something more through the schools. Okay.
But I think that I think that doing something like, if the education committee would like to be in touch with the schools to see, how can CPUN be involved in whatever like first day of school traditions there are. I think that one factor that is difficult in our neighborhood is that it's just really large
Yeah.
with a lot of schools. And so as opposed to a smaller neighborhood that has maybe one or two neighborhood schools. But I don't think that there's no reason to shoot that down. Like, I
Yeah.
think I would encourage folks just kind of like follow an idea out and see if it works or if it doesn't.
Okay. And then two others that, have we ever done any kind of history of the neighborhood? I mean, is that something that's, like, I mean, I could see that as, you were talking about like Denver History Society, having somebody come down and, I mean, talk about the old airport or walk. Obviously, we still have these relics with the control tower and everything. Is that something that, I don't know,
Yeah, no, I think that
there
is.
are no bad ideas, I know.
Yeah, no, there's, no, I mean, I think that probably would be like a monthly meeting topic more than a standalone, event. But I think that,
So not so much informal, we're looking for more kind of formal.
I mean, this is kind of both
Yeah.
events and meeting topics. But I would say that, so we have had, so around the time, like the times, with the kind of neighborhood name change, issues, there was actually, I mean, there were days of reflection, but actually it was days of reflection about, the like 1920s, like like the actual kind of like Denver wide like history, and kind of contextualizing why, Stapleton was probably not what we wanted to, kind of hitch our star to. Or hitch our wagon to. So there have been those kinds of conversations, but just a general conversation about the history of the neighborhood, not so much. Unless there have been conversations about the Green Book, I think.
It feels like a topic that
I think that
they have.
they don't necessarily have like the will, like to,
Yeah.
or the interest, like, so
Not on history, but I don't know, I may be like the one random person on that, but no, I think of like, I guess I think of my time in Chicago where they would have these neighborhood tours every once in a while, and maybe there's a once a year meetup to, I mean, we all live in those old airport, but I'm sure a lot of us have a tough time visualizing like what it used to be like.
Yeah. I think that I think there's more than one history nerd in this group, actually, so. But I think like, I guess, would you be interested in like reaching out to the MCA or reaching out to the library for like materials that they already have? Like, I think the Foundation for Sustainable Urban Neighborhoods, actually, like that used to be the Stapleton, the Stapleton Foundation, I think was what it was originally called. And they actually have a lot of information about the history of the neighborhood, and the development of the neighborhood, already, just kind of on their website. So actually somebody speaking from there, I think that the other, I don't know if you saw, there was actually a History Colorado exhibit in 2021, I think, on development in Denver. And actually our neighborhood was one of the neighborhoods highlighted like over the course of the exhibit. So there are materials at History Colorado too. So, and it went from like the airport through the development plan to the name change, like just kinds of different things that are shaping neighborhood identity. So it was a really interesting project.
We had things at the farmer's market, those, that stuff on panels as people, we're asking people what are their issues and concerns and ideas, so it's an informal survey. All things are possible.
I have one last question.
Sure.
So just again, from my time in Chicago, living in a neighborhood there, you know, they would organize, a couple neighborhoods would organize like these garden walks once a year. I don't know if we've ever done anything.
Park Hill does that too. Yeah, they do that in the spring.
So I think of it as our neighborhood is perfect for, we have a lot of small yards and some people get super creative, like with what they do. I think that
Carol's
could
yard is beautiful. I would
Yeah.
put that.
I was gonna say Carol's is one of the.
Yeah.
yards.
And newly painted house. if I
David
remember
and I had discussed something like that for the sustainability committee. People had like redone their tree lawns,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, or using the, using the Denver box thing.
Or just anything.
That might be, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'll tie it all together, right? Cause I keep trying to get one of those dang boxes, but they go but they go really quickly.
Good catch.
Here's
But maybe like showing, this is what it would look like if you got one of those.
Yeah.
They are actually available. I don't know anybody who's actually gotten one.
Resource Central.
Yeah.
My sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got
That's
one, so. So I think all of those are great. Like,
Yeah, no, seriously, they're all good.
Late spring.
Yeah.
Neighborhood walk.
From just a logistics perspective, Carol, you're saying we gotta get dates on count. Do we have a shared CPUN calendar? I'm happy to set one up.
I don't think we do. So if you'd like
Yeah.
to set that up, that would be great.
And then maybe,
Thank you.
maybe
Okay, actually, I need to put people's names to the things they're saying they're gonna do.
sure, yeah, yep. So I'll create a shared CPUN calendar and then also I think we need, I'm sorry, I'm not working anymore, so you're gonna have to deal with Google Sheets. I hate it personally, but probably should just buy a license for Microsoft, but whatever. A spreadsheet that just has all the list of these ideas.
Yeah.
So I have not been noting all this down, but I think
Okay,
you guys have.
I have, and we'll also have the recording.
Sweet.
So
So I'm happy to put it in there and then we can,
I
prioritize.
was gonna say, you're the ideating lady, so like,
Yeah.
let's.
Prioritize and then, okay, who's the primary, maybe a runner up, and then like,
Yeah.
what month are we targeting? And then we can put those on the calendar and like,
Yeah.
get us organized.
Yeah, and I think just speaking like very generally, the primary, like in terms of what are like spokes of things that are not movable. The primary election is, to be honest, like in Denver is more important. Like in terms of candidates, for the ballot.
Yeah.
So I would say we would want to have a candidate forum, as either part of our May meeting or in our June meeting, depending on when those dates hit. And then for the November election, I don't know what we can do, like, but anyway, that the ballot measures, and statewide measures, doing another, some sort of event that is focused specifically on that.
Add to that, the caucuses, is that only at the governor's state?
So that's partisan. So it's not only gubernatorial, but I think actually explaining how caucus works is actually a topic that we can, is a topic that I would be happy to talk about or like, or get somebody to talk about. But it is a partisan thing. I think that the Republican Party did cancel caucusing like one year. I don't know if they will do that again this year, but I think that because we're a C3, like we have to make sure that it is like a nonpartisan discussion of the caucus process. And that any forums that we have, if it's a partisan race, we are inviting candidates, from both parties, so.
There's a lot of candidates in all the races right now, so.
Yeah, no, I know. And Heather, I think we'll be leaning on you for
Be a whole thing.
information on
Yeah.
that. So, okay, it is now 8:31. November 15th is Saturday. That will be our November meeting. Just to mark that on your calendar, so I'll send out a calendar invitation. It will be the joint RNO, Northeast Denver RNO meeting from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it will be at the Mosaic campus. So I'll send information out about that.
We need help with setup and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, we will. Trust me. We will need a lot of help because it's kind of like
Lot of help.
getting put together right now.
Places, it's last.
No, that was at Zion Senior Center. This is the Mosaic campus is where Johnston and Wales used to be.
Campus.
Well, I have to get the specific location. So that, yeah, that's what the district aid office was helping us like secure the space.
Remember, it was not even
It's more central
signed up to
for
do it.
all of the neighborhoods.
Oh, I get.
It's whenever.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just, I was gonna grab some bags.
Oh,
Sorry.
then, just December 16th, we don't actually usually have a meeting in December, but the third Tuesday in December is actually not too close to the holidays. So I was wondering if folks would be interested in having a holiday potluck.
Sure.
Just like, and it can be anybody who wants to show up,
16th.
shows up. It's not just.
Oh, that's my birthday.
Your birthday?
It's your birthday.
Third Tuesday?
Okay.
Get that, David?
All right. Well, thank you, everybody who joined us online. We are concluding the meeting, and we will, see you on Saturday, November 15th at 11 a.m.
Right.
Instead of the Tuesday.
Or earlier to set up.
Yes.